Right, year 10s. I've looked at your homework, and in this case, the probability homework, and there's two questions which I wanted to go through. These seem to have been a common error for most people, so I'll just go over them to explain what you need to do. Now, the first question was question 14, where you had to work out the probability of getting a 4 or a 5 when a dice is rolled once. Now, what you've got to think about in this case is, how could you win a game if you had to get a 4 or a 5? Now, you're rolling the dice, and there's 6 numbers which could be your outcomes. Okay, and only 2 of those are going to give you a win. Okay, that's if you roll a number 4 or a number 5. So 2 out of those 6 are going to get you to win. Okay, so in this case, it's actually quite simple. The answer would just be 2 out of 6. Okay, so you would just write down 2/6, or in this case, just select 2/6 as your answer. Now, the thing you've got to remember about probabilities, there's 2 words which confuse people. Now, they're quite simple words, but they can cause problems. One of them is or, and the other is and. Now, whenever you see the word or, just think you've got to add the probabilities. And if you see the word and, just remember to multiply the probabilities. So in this case, where the 2/6 comes from is the probability of getting a 4 or the probability of getting a 5. Now, the probability of getting a 4 is 1/6, and the 5 is also 1/6. And this or suggests that you need to add the probabilities to give you a total of 2/6. Now, sometimes you might be asked to actually simplify that fraction, and that would simplify to a third, but in this case, you don't need to. Right, the next question I wanted to go through is this one here. It's question 22, and it says the probability of landing on a 1, a 2, a 4, a 5, or a 6 when rolling a biased dice are shown in the table. Okay, so you've got a missing probability here, which is the 3. And it says the biased dice is rolled 300 times, and estimate the total number of times it'll land on a 3 or a 4. Now, there's a few different principles you need to understand to do this question. Okay, the first one is probabilities add up to 1. Okay, no matter what the case, the probabilities of all the different outcomes will add up to 1. The next thing you need to remember is the OR rule, which I explained in the last example. And the last bit is the expected number of outcomes is the probability of the event, so the chance of it happening, multiplied by how many times it's done, so the number of trials. So for example, if you were to roll a dice, the probability of getting a 1 is 1/6. And if you were to roll the dice 30 times, you'd expect to get a 1 1/6 of the time. So a sixth of 30 is 5. Okay. But if it was a decimal instead, you would just do a sixth. Well, you'd do the decimal times 30. Okay, so if it was say 0.1, you do 0.1 times 30, which is 3. Okay, so all you need to remember to do is multiply the probability by the number of times it's being done. So let's just have a look at the solution to this. So the first thing we need to do is work out this missing probability here, and in order to do that, we need to add up these numbers, see what we've got, and take it away from 1, because we know these need to add up to 1. Okay, so we need to do this sum here first. So we need to add up all the probabilities, and if you were to do that, you'd get 0.88, and then you need to do 1 take away 0.88, which is 0.12. Okay, so that's the chance of getting a 3. So let's just put that in the table, 0.12. So what I need to do next is work out the probability of getting a 3 or a 4. So just like before, we need to add those probabilities. So the chance of getting a 3 is 0.12, plus the chance of getting a 4, which is 0.21, and that gives me 0.33. So that's my probability, okay, 0.33, and all I need to do then is I need to do, well, let's just write it down properly. So expected number of times to get a 3 or 4. Okay, you do 0.33 multiplied by the number of times we're doing it, and in this case it is 300 times, so multiply that by 300 and you'll get 99. Okay, so the answer there is 99.
So
if you come across a question like that, that's how you go about doing it. And just remember the principles, okay? If it's an or you're dealing with, then you need to add the probabilities. If you're looking at how many times you expect something to happen, work out the chance of it happening once and multiply it by how many times you're doing it. And remember the golden rule with probability, which is probabilities always add up to 1.